You are welcome to the Nonprofit Board Fundraising Activation. This system is going to walk you through four clear steps you have to take to get your board up and running for your organization. The goal is simply to get your board to start supporting you in raising money for your organization. And the good part is with this system, you're not only going to activate your board to start fundraising with you, but you're also going to build a solid fundraising plan that would ensure you begin to bring in money for your organization sustainably. And aside the fundraising plan, you also get the opportunity to recruit a professional fundraiser to join your board. And the good thing about that is the same system you use in bringing in a professional fundraiser can also be executed in bringing in other types of board members, depending on what your board needs at the moment. So let's dive right into the system. Now, most mistakes most nonprofit make is when it comes to getting their board to raise money, they either provide them training on how to raise money or they give them obligations, fundraising obligations to say you have to raise X amount of dollars this year. Both are wrong approaches to get board members to start supporting your fundraising. I'll explain. The very first, which is where they get to teach board members fundraising. The reality is this: board members do not want to learn fundraising. They didn't come into your organization because they wanted to become fundraisers. But what board members are open to do is supporting the organization as regards fundraising in their areas of strength, in their areas of expertise, using their financial resources, right? Exposing the organization to their network. So this process that you're about to go through is going to get you to guide your board members to actually show up without being confrontational, without you pushing them, but walking them through a system that by the end of the system, they find that they are already supporting the organization when it comes to fundraising. The second aspect is putting in fundraising obligations. When you do that, you wear your board members out. You put them under intense pressure, and that, of course, at the end of the day, leads to disengaged and passive boards. We've seen this happen over and over again. But when you're able to lead your board members through a system, right, you find that they are even more able to contribute to your organization's fundraising. They are more able to support your organization when it comes to raising money, far more than whatever obligation you put ahead of them. So that's exactly what this board fundraising activation system is really all about. Activating your board to fundraise with you, to get them to support you at the highest level. Now let's go into the four-step process. One is the board alignment, where we get to set expectation. This is really for board members or boards that are presently passive or disengaged. Very important. But even if your board is not passive or disengaged, it's also very important that you actually set alignment from the very beginning. The second is the board fundraising planning. This is very important. We say people who plan together execute together. In the nonprofit world, that's our core saying. So it means if you want your board members to actually raise money with you, you need to plan that very fundraising with them. The third is the board fundraising execution planning. This is where you all come together to actually plan how you want to execute the fundraising plan you all have created together. And then, of course, the fourth process is recruiting a professional fundraiser to join your board. This is very important because most nonprofits actually make the mistake of not having a professional fundraiser on their board. So you're looking to raise money, you're looking to scale, but you don't have the wisdom needed to raise money on your board. And this is one of the reasons why most organizations struggle because if you have that wisdom on your board, you did find that you're doing things a lot differently. You have somebody who's reviewing your strategy, reviewing your materials, making sure everything is right, and also supporting you. And that's a very huge shift when it comes to raising money. And of course, lastly, the board execution, which is where you and your board begins to execute together. Now, Let's look at the very first step, which is the board alignment. The goal of the board alignment is to set expectations, basically to get board members to say, yes, I am willing to commit to supporting the organization when it comes to raising money in my areas of strength, skills, and expertise. This is really the core or the very first step. And like I said, this is number one for boards that are passive or disengaged. You must have this conversation. But even boards that are not passive or disengaged, you should also have this conversation. Because when most board members come in, they know somehow they have to support the organization in fundraising, but there's never really been that conversation that really anchors on the fact that this is important for our success. This is time we all come together to actually do our best to ensure the organization is properly funded, except we may not have an organization soon enough. So the goal here is to have a honest and clear conversation that actually gets board members to recognize the importance of fundraising, to agree to support fundraising. So after that conversation, which is what you can actually do immediately after this video, you could actually pick up your phone and call each board member. And the good thing is we've provided you the phone call script, exact word for word how you have to say it so that they buy into it, so that they know that this is real, without you being confrontational, without you being pushy. Simply you setting the standard, getting them to agree, and then following up with an email that actually confirms what they've agreed, which is basically your contract to say you've agreed to this and this is how we're going to be moving forward. And it's also important on that call, you let them know we're going to be initiating a fundraising planning process. And that process is going to involve you sharing your ideas on areas that can help us raise money for our organization. So once you have that conversation and they agree to support fundraising, you are a step ahead already, because with that alignment, it means the next step can then come in. And it's very important you take this step by step. Do not rush through or rush past any step, because every step builds on the next. So what do you get to be able to execute this process? We'll provide you the core script, the exact word for word on how to, position the fundraising expectation, how to get them to step up and say, yes, I'm willing to commit. And of course, the confirmation email that goes after that call to say you have decided on this. Now, this is what we're going to do next, which is where the fundraising planning comes in. Now, the fundraising planning itself. Like I said, people who plan together execute together. So if you want them to plan with you, they need to own the plan as much as you do. And that's where the fundraising planning comes in. For you to be able to execute this, we have the email template that you send out with a fundraising planning form. The link on the fundraising planning form is going to be attached to that email that says, as we go into the next step of this organization, we need to be able to raise money to keep the organization going. And for us to be able to raise money, we need your ideas. So this is very important, because as they read through, they click on the link, it takes them to the form, they simply share the ideas. And what are they sharing the ideas on? They are sharing the ideas on who are our ideal target audience? Who are the people we should be reaching out to raise money? Where can we find these people? How do we attract these people to our organization on a daily basis? What are the step-by-step process do you think we need to follow to be able to raise money from these people? You want to be able to pick their brain, right? And that's what we're doing. We're trying to get more ideas from them, because the truth is this, your board members are talented. Some of them are skilled. Some of them has experience. So until you tap into those experience and understanding and skills and knowledge, you're most likely going to be missing out on a lot of opportunities that's right in front of you. So getting them to share those ideas are really very important. And aside sharing those ideas, you are also getting them to decide, how do you want to support fundraising when it comes to our organization? Do you want to support donor stewardship? Do you want to help us make introduction? Do you want to map out or introduce us to your network? Uh, do you want to join us in making the ask when we meet with donors? Where they think they can come, where they have strength in supporting you, they get to decide. Do you want to help us in creating materials that can help us attract our funding audience to the organization? They all get to decide where they want to come in. And this is really very important, because now you're not being pushy. You're not confrontational. They are simply deciding how they want to engage. Your job is to be able to lead them to engage exactly how they want to be engaged based on their skills and their experience. Another important part of that fundraising plan is asking if they are open to actually supporting the organization's fundraising execution in terms of financial resources. Because at the end of the fundraising planning process, you're going to find that there's a budget that's needed to execute the plan. You can't be thinking of raising $100,000 and you think you won't spend any money. That's not right. So you're most likely going to be spending some couple, some few $1,000s, and you're going to need to raise that money somewhere. Except your organization has money in its coffers that you think, well, we could just pull out to execute. But aside that, I think it's also very important that you get board members to give to executing the fundraising plan. I don't advise asking board members to give to actually execute programs because that's not sustainable. Rather, I advise you get board members to give to execute the fundraising plan and then raises the money to be able to execute the program. That's how you invest, board resources right. So all that are captured in the planning form, and they get to decide how they want to engage, how they want to give, and then of course share the ideas on how to raise money for your organization. But aside that, you also are also doing the same thing. You also have to fill up the form, decide how you want to engage, and also how much you're willing to support the fundraising strategy execution with. And after that, everybody has shared their ideas. Your job, right, as a founder or executive director, is to take all those ideas and consolidate them into one plan. And the good thing is we've provided you the fundraising planning manual that helps you actually do that, consolidate all the ideas, really think deeper into those ideas, making sure every of the part of your fundraising plan is sharp. And we've also provided AI instruction that helps you fine-tune each areas of these fundraising plans so that you have a tight fundraising plan that's executable and that board members will be willing to commit to. So once you consolidate that plan into one plan, you can then email that to your board members, with the final plan saying, this is the final plan. I want us to come together to discuss, adopt this plan and discuss how we're going to execute the plan. That's how you get board members into the fundraising planning process. They sharing their ideas and then consolidating those ideas and inviting them in for the execution session. And then, of course, you have to prepare to facilitate that session. So, what do you get for this process? We'll provide you the fundraising planning form containing all the questions, the ideas. We send you the email script to send out the form to each board member. We send you the fundraising planning manual. You get the fundraising planning manual that helps you, really consolidate all the ideas and really create a smart plan. Of course, it includes AI instruction to help you do that. You also get the follow-up email that you send out to invite board members into the fundraising execution planning session. Now, the next stage, which is the fundraising execution planning session itself. This is a meeting that you as the founder have to facilitate. And the goal of this facilitation is to get everyone to discuss on each part of your fundraising plan that you've created, from who your ideal funding audience are. In short, from the very first start, which is how much we're looking to raise, to who your ideal funding audience are, to where to find them, to how to attract them daily, to how to raise money from them, to the people you need to execute your fundraising strategy, to the materials you need to execute the fundraising strategy, to the budget. You're making sure each part of that plan, you all discuss it together, agree on each part. Any new idea that's shared, you make sure it's also captured in, right? So that at the end of the process, you all have agreed on the entire plan and then you can move the motion for the plan to be adopted. And that's really the master stroke because once everybody agree to adopt that plan as a working document for the organization that you all are going to commit to, that's where things begin to happen because now it's now a plan that's owned by the board, that's adopted by the board, and it means the plan has to be executed. And of course, that leads to you all agreeing on these are the different roles each person has to play in executing the plan. For those who say they are open to, leading a fundraising team, they are of course going to be supporting you in recruiting a fundraising team that's going to execute, the day-to-day outreach, for example, sending out emails, setting up appointments. Those that decide to say, they are going to support in terms of, building the team can also support in terms of raising, recruiting new board members. Those that say they were going to support in terms of stewardship, you make sure that each person's role is stated out within that plan. And of course, the gaps that you notice within the execution is what then leads to the next step, which is where you get to go recruit people to support the organization. So you find that after each person takes up a role, there are some gaps that are going to be in that plan. You're most likely going to need, a fundraiser or people to support the board to be able to take up those roles. And aside that, you're most likely also going to need a fundraising team to do the day-to-day execution, like I said. So your job is to actually bring these people in. And the good part of it is we've provided you further instruction on how to recruit a volunteer fundraising team, especially if you're yet to, raise money to be able to fund a full-time fundraising team, so that you have people who do the execution, and then your board members can actually show up as leaders, managing the team and taking advantage of the opportunities these teams attract to your nonprofit organization. Also, you also want to be able to point out those that have agreed to fund the fundraising plan, those that decided, in the planning form, those that said they are willing to give X amount of dollars, right? You want to be able to point out that, each person who agreed to bring X amount of dollars, for example, Mary, you agreed to bring $100 to support the fundraising plan. Terry, you agreed to bring $1,000 to support the fundraising plan. Myself, as the founder or executive director, have agreed to bring in $1,000 to support the fundraising plan. We still need another $3,000 to be able to, have the budget to support the fundraising planning execution. Whoever that's not giving yet, you can then begin to ask them straight up, Victoria, are you looking, can you support us so that we can be able to, get this budget needed to execute the fundraising plan? That way, those that didn't even agree to support the fundraising plan execution during the planning form can actually agree during the planning execution if you position it properly. And if you want to position it properly, it's important you call out each person that gave and then begin to call out those who didn't give, asking them to actually take a step forward to give. So with that, you should have been able to facilitate the process. I would say use AI note taker to actually take minutes of that meeting so that you have a reference point for everybody, that you can actually fall back to. And what you could also do with the AI note taker is we provided you a prompt. You could paste that prompt into the AI note taker, and then it's going to develop a short portfolio for each board member based on the role they've decided to play. So that at the end of the meeting, you can then send them a portfolio on what they have to do to help the organization raise money. The materials we provide you for this part of the execution is, of course, the fundraising execution facilitation guide, how to execute, how to facilitate that meeting so that you're saying the right words and you're guiding them right. The email scripts to send after the planning session so that you're sending out emails, thanking everybody for showing up, and then, positioning everybody into the areas that they want to support. The relationship mapping form that gets board members to actually map out the ideal funding audience they know from their network, because you want to be able to, first of all, reach out to people around your network before you even start reaching out to people out there, right? So your board members can map out people they know within their network that actually falls within your ideal funding audience radar, right? So, for example, if real estate agents are people within your funding audience radar, your board members can be able to map out the real estate agents they know, and of course, help you make introduction so you can go in and make the ask. Also, the donation link to send out to those who would give to support the organization's fundraising, and of course the execution emails for each execution. Those that are going to be recruiting the fundraising team, the emails that go to them. Those that are going to be supporting you recruiting the board, the emails that go to them. Those that are going to be raising money with you, the emails that go to them. You want to make sure all that is sent out accordingly. Now, finally, we're talking about recruiting a fundraiser to join your board. So Like I said, surprisingly, most organizations do not have a professional fundraiser on their board, and that's a big no, especially if you're looking to raise money and scale. You need the wisdom of a professional fundraiser, somebody who can actually be able to review your strategy, review your proposals, make sure everything is right? And even show up to help you make the ask or support you when making the ask. That's a big deal to ensure your success when it comes to raising money. So you are going to have to go out there to recruit a professional fundraiser. And even aside the professional fundraiser, you may need other people to also come on your board. For example, a marketer, a community engagement person, a grant writer, you know, all these roles. If you think they're important and you need them, you must go out to recruit them. And the good thing is this process can be used for any kind of role you're looking to bring in. You just basically specify the materials to speak to the kind of role, right? So first, you have to create the recruitment materials, the job post that has to go out, the social media version of it that has to go out, the email templates you send out to invite people for interviews, the rejection emails you send out to for people you're not moving forward with, your interview questions, your onboarding emails, your onboarding materials, right? The board agreements, and confidentiality form, the conflict of interest form, right? Board application form, all that materials, you have to create them. Once you're done creating them, of course, the second step is to launch the recruitment drive, putting out the job post on LinkedIn, board build, you know, ideal list, various platforms where you can find board members, and also sharing the application across your social media so that it can drive people into your application form to go apply. Selecting candidates and inviting them for interviews. Once people begin to apply, you have to select those you know, they have the skills and experience you're looking for, and then inviting them for an interview or what we call the board introductory call. We call it the board introductory call to get some board members to really, bring their mind down and lower their guard so that they can come in for the interview. And then, of course, you go in with for the interview, ask the right questions, and you don't decide during the interview if you're going to be moving forward with them. You just let them know, well, we have so many applicants. We're going to get back to you whether we've decided to move forward with you. But thank you so much for showing up. And then if there are people you want to move forward with, you then send them the acceptance email to say, yes, we're happy to have you as part of our board member. Please pick a time for your onboarding session, which is basically your invitation to onboarding email. You go into that onboarding session, let them know their responsibilities, let them know what you expect of them. And then at the end of that session, you send them the board agreement and confidentiality form that they get to sign. And after signing that, you can then invite them in for their first board meeting. What I'll say is any board member you bring in, repeat the same fundraising process you took your earlier board members through, which is actually sending them the fundraising planning form that gets them to share their ideas. Once they share their ideas, you bring those ideas into your present plan, consolidate it if there's anything that's missing. Because of course, your fundraising plan is a living document, so it has to be improved over time, even as you execute and as new ideas begins to come up. And then, of course, activate the board member to be able to support the organization as they go. Now, the materials you're going to be getting are the AI prompts to help you build and create your board recruitment materials, your interview guide and scoring logic, the board agreement and confidentiality form, the conflict of interest form, um, the board application form, all that you're going to be provided. The fundraising planning email form, and the form itself has already been provided you. And lastly, your board activation email for your new board member. With this done, you'll find that you have three clear things now. One, you have a board that's, you know, committed to supporting fundraising in the areas of skills and experience, which is very important. Funders tend to look at this as, a key factor to deciding if you're funding ready. You now have a fundraising plan, which shows that you're willing to be able to raise money. So funders also see this as very important because aside their funding, they want to know you are able to keep raising money to keep the mission going. And then, of course, now you have a competent fundraising team right? A competent board that's actually committed to helping you raise money, including a professional fundraiser. And of course, other board members, depending on how far you're willing to go with your board recruitment. This is how you get to activate your board to start helping you raise money. To go a step further, you have to recruit a fundraising team that's going to do the day-to-day execution, like sending out emails, setting up appointments, and driving people to your donation page. And that's a whole different level. But the good thing is we've provided you materials to be able to do so. All you have to do is just replicate this board recruitment process, but then now focused on bringing in volunteers to execute your fundraising. So we've provided you all the materials to be able to make that happen for your organization. If you go through this process and you need any help or you have any question, please reach out to me, Rooney at nonprofitboardbuilder.com. I'll be happy to support you and provide you direction as you go. Or if you think you want me to come in and actually do this for you, I'll be happy to come in and do this for you as you go. Also, as you go through this process, once you're able to create results, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to get your feedback. How you were able to create results, what you did. That's very important for us to share with other nonprofits so that they know it's possible to have a board that actively supports fundraising, a board that fundraises with the founder or executive director so that we can continue building more successful nonprofits. It is my dream, it is my vision to see as many successful nonprofits as possible. And this is my way of making that happen. So I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to seeing you if we get to talk. And I look forward to seeing you successful. Until we meet and talk again, it's bye for now.